Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bite Size Panel Edition, where we take a quick but deep look at the human condition at home, at work, everywhere. I'm your host, show creator, animator, and MAPS business coach, Peter K. Weiner. And today we have a panel of two joining us who are here to discuss today's topic du jour, which I will reveal shortly. We have Rachel Cross, who is an artist, teacher, musician, and fellow coach, Jake Clendenning. And welcome to today's Bite Size Panel. Rachel, in a few sentences, could you tell us what you do and who you are?
Sure. First of all, it's great to be here with Jake and Peter today. I am a self-employed, full-time visual artist, arts educator, and ukulele instructor. For me, I get a lot of inspiration from the natural world and also from female archetypes throughout all different cultures of the world and throughout history. For me, the arts are an essential vehicle for us to create community and to discover humanity in each other. Thanks.
Wow, that was a great speech. And Jake, can you? Well, we've met Jake before. If you've seen earlier episodes, can you tell us something? Just catch us up on who you are and what you do, and maybe tell us something we didn't know about you.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, Peter, and welcome, Rachel. Excited to have you here. It's always fun to have a little more feminine perspective to what is normally a little more male-dominated panel here.
Trying to break that norm. We're working on breaking that.
We're working on that. It's so good. So I am, as Peter said, I'm a MAPS coach. I work on the transformational side. I am NLP Master Practitioner Certified, One Thing Certified Coach as well. Whole bunch of letters that nobody really cares about, but they're still good. From an arts perspective, the minute you said ukulele instructor, Izzy started playing Over the Rainbow in my head. So, and it was really, really good for the rest. It was good background music for the rest of your elevator pitch. Beautiful. So yeah, in a past life, I was a chainsaw sculptor. So in the realm of the artistic stuff, that's where I went with that.
Okay, you're not going to get away with just mentioning that. We're gonna come back to that after this snippet. I want to hear more about the chainsaw skills.
Me too.
So today's snippet is entitled Secret Sauce. And, you know, we've all had our own combination of qualities. We all have our own combination of qualities and skills. And how they combine and manifest themselves in our professional and personal life is the real trick. So let's take a look at this clip and see what we see. Okay, let's roll it. Have you ever listened to a public speaker or met someone and you're in awe of how comfortable they seem in their skin? And you might ask yourself, how is it that things come so easily for them? Well, maybe it was a lot harder than it looked. There's an old saying, don't judge your insides by other people's outsides. In other words, you have no idea how hard they may have worked or how long they may have practiced before they found their flow. And you have no idea how they feel about it or what they're coming home to when they leave your world. Also, they chose their area of expertise, not you, and it was based on what they were already good at. Now, we're all products of our own experiences, but it's from that we draw our superpowers. Let's say someone's passion was accounting from an early age, and they learned all they could about bookkeeping and tax laws. What if these skills thrilled them and came easily to them? And the more they immersed themselves in that world, the happier they became. In fact, now they have a hard time understanding why people pay them handsomely to do their taxes and books because it's so pleasurable for them. Why would someone deprive themselves of that pleasure? That might not describe all of us, but there are a few out there who feel that way. So while you might not take pleasure in one thing, I am sure there is something else that comes particularly easy to you. The trick is finding that thing and putting in the 10,000 hours, because if it's something you love to do, are naturally good at, and people are willing to pay you for it, those 10,000 hours will go by in a flash. So what are you good at? What excites you? What brings you pleasure? If you can figure that out, you may have found your secret sauce. And after 10,000 hours, who knows? People may begin to wonder, why do things come so easily for you? Okay, so let's dive a little deeper and kind of look at your interpretation of I know what I think of it because I created it, but I would love to get your feedback. So let's start with Rachel. She is the new one in town here. What would you say is your key takeaway from all this?
The acknowledgement that what you see in a professional setting, or even meeting other people for the first time, what you see took a lot of time to get there. What you see presented in a professional setting or even in a social setting, there's a backstory. I've been thinking about the phrase that just popped in my head during this was, it takes 20 years to become an overnight sensation, right? So by the time somebody breaks that surface and they're shining their light and you're hearing about them and all the amazing work they've done, it's been thousands of hours of hard work. It's been accepting where they are, what they have to do, mentors. I mean, so much has gone into where we are now, and where we go from here when you meet someone, or
Yeah. So what would you say your first 10,000 hours was? You mentioned a lot of different skills that you have and a lot of different things that you do.
Wow. So it's always been art and music and teaching. It's kind of it's like a three rivers in my life. That's kind of the way I see it now that I'm, over 50. Hopefully with folks, the paths converge. So right now I feel like my it's like 30,000 hours at this point,
Right.
or more.
Yeah.
But it's converging in a new way. And sometimes that secret sauce that you're talking about in your video is really accepting what your skills are and how do you repackage them or re-put them together in a new way, that you can make a living from, but also that is satisfying to you.
We're all over 40 here, and I think that we accumulate a lot of skills as we go, and you raise a really good point. How do you not only combine those skills in a way that is sustainable, where you can make a living, but also for your own peace and your own joy? And that raises a great point. Jake, what is your key takeaway from Secret Sauce?
I want to go back to what Rachel said there real quick, because she had a brilliant quote. It takes 20 years to be an overnight success. So that's a different lens to look at the same thing that we're talking about with Secret Sauce. Because in you and I as MAPS coach, we have heard this many times, 10,000 hours to mastery. So I look at that from two different perspectives in two different directions. The 10,000 hours to mastery is what I would be doing on this side. I'm going to have to trudge down this road 10,000 hours to get there. And to Rachel's quote is the outside perception of what that looks like, right? We're looking at that from somebody else's view of suddenly we see an overnight success, but they didn't see the 20 years or the 10,000 hours of time that it took to get there. So I like that concept of inward, what it's taking, and the outward impression of, bam, you're there. I mean, what an interesting thought process.
Yeah, and what it does is it gets rid of the prodigy assumption. Especially when you see someone who's 18, 19, 20 doing something amazing, you think, oh, well, they were born with it, and it's just they're prodigy. And but usually if you do look at the backstory, some domineering parent or coach was working with them since they were 3. So it absolutely, you can actually put your 10,000 hours in without being a prodigy, or maybe it's a combination of those things. Rachel, what came up for you that you did not expect in that video?
So as a arts educator, right? So I'm working with different populations of people all the time. And when people are first learning something, a lot of times they want to copy exactly what you do. And that's a big responsibility as a facilitator, a coach, an educator. If somebody copies exactly what you do and they don't get the same results, sometimes there's resentment. There are other kinds of not emotions that keep us from moving forward. So it made me check a little bit with my own educational and facilitator practices and think about, okay, am I making the material accessible, and is it open-ended enough for the person to work in their own way without copying exactly what I do? I'm giving them the systems, but not saying, okay, you need to walk in every footstep that I make. So as someone who's leading a group of people or working with an individual, again, a coach, administrator, educator, however you're working with them, that's a big that's a big responsibility. So that came up for me, the responsibility of being the one in charge.
So just to clarify, so part of the perspective that may be challenging is, this is how I would want to be taught versus this is how they need to be taught.
Right. Or, leaving room for other viewpoints and other ways of doing things, letting your students or clients have that wiggle room, and not expecting them to do things exactly the way you did it.
No, that makes sense. And Jake, what caught you by surprise in this video?
This one brought up, I'm going to go down a little bit different path here. So this one brought up that early 1900s comic book, comic strip of Keeping Up with the Joneses. If we remember that from New York, right? So this was a wealthy upstart, they had it all. They were going places and the neighbors were trying to keep up with them. So they were comparing themselves to the Joneses, right? Of that wealth building thing. And I think about that as that wealth building trap of that comparative lifestyle of, well, I need to be, what are they doing that I need to do in order to do that? Well, they have that boat, I need that boat, so I got to go buy that boat. So getting in that comparative lifestyle trap and not doing that, because to Rachel's point, right, we are all different. We're different people. Wealth means something different to me than it's going to mean to Peter, than it's going to mean to Rachel.
So where has your secret sauce, Rachel, where has your secret sauce shown up for you most prominently?
It comes with being able to be yourself. It also, a lot of that is being really honest with yourself and accepting where you are now. Acceptance is not complacency. Those are two different things. But really, like, okay, here I am now. If someone asks me to do this and I honestly don't think I have the skills to do it, I need to say no. That's really hard to say no when you're a self-employed person.
Right. Yeah.
But so that's where it comes for me. Just being really confident in my world of skills, which is here. Yeah. But I know that world really well.
Absolutely, and that's huge. And having that confidence, and if I'm going to be really transparent here, I'm still struggling with that because my skill sets are so. They seem unrelated, but what we're doing right now is the actual convergence of my skill sets. And that's why this is fun, because okay, this makes sense.
So from the chainsaw art perspective,
and this is what I'm waiting for.
Right, as I'm looking at, what started me down that road. I was a custom log home builder, is where it started with, and we've cut firewood. I'm good with a chainsaw. I've spent a lot of time, hours and hours and hours and hours, just with the saw by itself. So
remind me to stay on your good side, Jake.
Fair enough. Yep. So, as I've always been a little bit artistic, I have some of that capability in there and I can do those things. And I was seeing during that era of time, others that were doing these really cool things, right? It started with the little crafty bears that you see, at flea markets and things. And then at a Cheyenne Frontier Days one year, I saw a guy doing chainsaw sculpture that was real, true, honest sculpture. It was equine sculpture, finely crafted, beautiful lines, amazing stuff. And I went, I want to do that. That's cool. And I have all the tools and I know how to use them. And I have this huge pile of extra lumber from, big logs. And I started down that path. Was my first chainsaw sculpture epic and amazing like that? No. In point of fact, my kids didn't know what it was. They couldn't. They had no idea what the animal was. Could have been a lot of things. And it took time to develop that. It just took time. It took years to get to the point to where people would look at the stuff that I was doing, and it had to become authentically who I was. I couldn't go, I could not, I didn't end up doing that beautifully structured equine stuff. I started out into this with mammals and wanting to do bears and cool stuff like that. Turns out I was really good at birds and people is what I ended up being really good at. Not where I started, but it's where I allowed the path to take me. And I developed those skills, and I found books, and I found videos, and I found the people. I went and watched them sculpt and do those things so I could get better in that. That's the path. That's what it is. And it's finding that authentic flow with who you are, the Three Rivers convergence piece, right? I wanted to be in this river and do this. Well, I actually needed to take this fork to get into this river in order to really stay authentically true to who I was. Now I can look at a log, I can look at a tree and go, you know what that could be? That could be this and this. And it gives me a little bit different perspective. And it just helps me flex that part of my brain. And it gives me a little bit of release on that side. I'm not doing it for sale art anymore. It's more of because I like people and because they deserve it for Christmas, they'll get something cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome.
To satisfy your soul.
Yeah.
So I would say just knowing that about you, right, is a connection. So even if you're making art or not making art anymore, if you meet somebody who is, that's a point of connection. And those personal stories or those anecdotes about what we've done, those are important.
Now I'm going to kind of hit it from a slightly different angle, and I'm going to start with Rachel. When has your secret sauce worked against you?
That's a really good. That is a really good question. Sometimes people are threatened by another person's independence or skill set for whatever reason, and sometimes that can work against them. I'm very clear about my parameters and my price range. Being self-employed, you work project to project, and do commissions and all these things. So sometimes they are very, sometimes that works against me. Because it's like they think, oh, an artist, it'll be cheap. She likes her job. It'll be fun. I don't need to pay for it. She'll come and play for music for free or come and do this. I'm related, so I should get it just shouldn't cost me anything. And I'm thinking, well, if there's a dentist in your family, you don't ask the dentist to do everybody's teeth for free. So that's where I'm at with that. So sometimes that does work against me because people have a different idea of what it means to be an artist. And when you're self-employed in any field, you're an entrepreneur and you're a business person, and this is a business. So that can work against me just because people have a different idea of what a person in a creative field does.
What is it that makes you decide that you're going to go a certain direction or go with a certain type of project or work with a certain type of client? What is it that actually makes that decision for you inside?
That's a really good. If I feel excited about it, the signals in your body, it's like, oh, if I feel excited about it, and there are sometimes where I have to do certain jobs for, I need the money, so I will say yes. But the best job, and mostly these days, I'm really thankful that it's a combination of both. It's like I'm liking the work, and it's covering my, my bills and my mortgage and all of that. So. It's a win-win in that case. So the best jobs are things that combine those. So it's like, oh yeah, that's a really exciting and new challenge for me, and that's a respectful price that the client is willing to pay.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Jake, I pose it to you. When has your secret sauce seemed to work against you or cause some kind of conflict for you?
That's it happens all the time. Happens all the time. And I can resonate with what Rachel is saying of as coaches, we know this is true, right? Because we're commission based. We're fully commission based on when people are coming in. And what we'll have people come to us and say, hey, I know you're a coach. I have this one question for you. And they'll ask for these mini coaching sessions, right? So we have that happen. The other thing that happens for me more often than not is we'll just be having a conversation with somebody, right? Dinner with friends, whatever it may be, something will crop up, something that I can feel in my perception that is a point of pain for them. And I will fall over myself to offer my services to fix that problem. Historically, I'm a fixer, right? That's what I do. I have a shop full of tools for fixing various stuff. And I have a head full of tools too that does it. So the work against me part is I've got to hit the brakes for myself. And I've got to say, one, they didn't ask for it. So I don't have to offer it to them because I do love the coaching side of it. So when people have that problem and I see a point to where we could ask the right question at the right time, I want to, whether I get paid for it or not. So I have to caution myself to not do that because not everybody's actually asking for coaching.
So Rachel, let me ask you this. You mentioned the three rivers. So how do you know when this convergence of the three rivers is flowing smoothly?
That is a great question. So that works on a lot of different levels. And that flow or law of ease or, not hitting that wall is really what this is about. So there's an excitement about the work. There's a challenge about the work. And there's a level of respect that you're receiving about the work. So all of that is happening. So that's one level. And there's also it's a new challenge, or it's a challenge.
Right, the challenge is part of the satisfaction.
The challenge is part of the satisfaction. So it's something, it's not exactly what you've been doing. There's some little twist to it. So for me, that is like a catalyst to learn something new. And that is part of my flow. So there's that excitement. When the flow, the convergence, the ease is not in play, you'll find yourself with less energy. You'll find yourself doing the same thing, feeling stuck, and frankly, the opportunities don't come as much to you. So a lot of it is a mindset. A lot of it is trusting what you do. And then there's another side is like getting the word out about what you do, which to me is like my least favorite part of the three rivers convergence of
Prospecting.
Business practice, right? The marketing. So just being comfortable with all sides of that. Everybody has to take out the garbage or do the one thing they don't want to do, but it's part of the work. So that's part of the acceptance, and the acceptance leads to the flow, because you're not building up all this resistance around maybe one part of the work that you don't want to do.
Right, and when the law of easement is not in play, it affects how you show up, and how you show up affects how easy it's going to be. So it's kind of a cycle. So Jake, how have you experienced the law of easement?
So within the coaching world, as it shows up for me, is when I'm having a conversation with a client and they say, you know what, coaching's for me. I need to do it. I'm ready to go. And that's that moment of acknowledgement. That's the proof, if I can use that word, that the flow exists, that I am rising to the challenge and I am enjoying what I'm doing because I'm showing up in that way and it's being acknowledged.
So Rachel, as we wrap this up, what did you learn from the video, and what did you learn from our conversation today? What were your key takeaways, not just from the video, but from this experience?
Well, firstly, I really appreciate working with people in different fields from myself. So it's really exciting to look through a lens of, you all are coaches, business coaches. So really to look through that lens of what I'm doing. So that was one of the most valuable things, was just to hear the way that you your reflections on the video and the subject matter through your lens. Getting a peek into your world makes me really think about my own practice and being an artist entrepreneur. I think anybody who's, we're entrepreneurs of ourselves. We really are. And even if even if you work for a big corporation, it's like we need to be the entrepreneurs and advocates for ourselves, and that's where the special sauce, secret sauce, comes in. So that was a nice kind of extra validation for things that I've been thinking about today. So thank you both for having me.
Awesome. That was
here.
very well put. And
Yeah.
Jake, you have to follow that one up.
I love the whole conversation. If it goes back to that 20 years to be an overnight success quote, I love that. What that tells me when we think about the three rivers is you're going to spend 20 years-ish or 10,000 hours in two rivers, right? If you stay in your one river the whole time, and at some point that little bit of a challenge is going to converge. And then what the outer world is going to see is the waterfall of the third river, right? They're going to see that sudden convergence of overnight success and acknowledgement. That it's going to happen at that point. So from a standpoint of moving forward in my business personally, those moments of frustration of like, man, I'm not getting there. Man, I'm not getting there. Man, I'm not getting there, because I haven't come around the corner and the waterfall hadn't hit yet. And yet there's a moment that it's going to happen, and that outward acknowledgement is going to happen, in that particular area. So I think that's just a really cool concept of how the two actually fully merge.
Thank you, Rachel and Jake, for being on our panel today. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. We will be back again next week to explore our scorecards. That's right. You heard me right. Our scorecards. So we will see you all then. Thank you so much, guys. This has been so much fun. Always a pleasure, Jake and Rachel. Love to have you back sometime.
Love to come back. And Jake, great to meet you.
You as well. Thanks, Rachel, for being here.